Oh, you know.
Never been boots on the ground.
There you go. One time I was boots on the ground. I was boots on the ground.
Are you doing that for the tailgates? That's fun.
I am.
Are you going back this week?
I am. I'm going to be live at the tailgates, and I think I'm going to do it under a different affiliation.
Really?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
All right. I like it.
So yeah, I'll be live.
Do you want to reveal or not yet?
Not even sure. So I just know it won't be the old one, and I know that
Art God Savvy Studios.
Yeah.
You know, just follow him at Art God Savvy.
Look at me now
on all platforms. There you go. He's a father now, and he's got more art coming because he's so inspired by his baby.
I can't wait to take my baby to a tailgate.
Really?
Isn't that gonna be fun? I could just kind of hold him up like, woo!
No.
All right.
Babies in sporting events, I don't get it. It's if you're taking your kid to a sporting event,
it's a hassle.
It's a hassle.
Where do you change that diaper?
I don't mean. I guess in one of the
not in one of the men's bathrooms where women pee in there.
Oh man, you remember that at the Dolphins game?
Yeah,
that was impressive.
Shorter line.
Speaking of the Dolphins, Chris Greer is going to address the media today around 2:00. The big headline yesterday was the non-trade of Jonathan Taylor. That deadline went by. They did not pull the trigger. I just saw something that Barry Jackson reported. It makes me physically angry to see what they were asking for Jonathan Taylor. Do you want to hear what they were asking for, Leroy?
What?
I want to punch Jim Irsay in the face for even suggesting the notion of this. Jim Irsay, according to Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald, first of all, the Packers were apparently the mystery team. That's been reported now. They were the mystery team for Jonathan Taylor.
Don't they already have a good running back?
Mystery team, dude.
All right.
Maybe a Wisconsin homecoming. That's what they're doing there. You know?
Okay.
I don't know. Barry Jackson says, and can confirm through a Dolphins person, as reported by the Indy media, the Colts made wild requests from Miami, including Jaylen Waddle.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, dude, Irsay,
wait,
you can
go to hell.
Here's what I can't figure out.
Hell, dude.
Here's what I can't figure out. Okay. You don't value him enough to pay him, but you value him enough to ask for a star receiver?
It's crazy.
Make up your mind.
Make up your mind, Irsay. Like, at what point does Chris Greer just like, all right, I'm dealing with a toddler. Like, when you're on the other line, he goes, he's probably watching, because we know that he loves, we know that he loves oceanic life. So he's probably watching March of the Penguins high as a kite.
Okay.
And he goes, I want Waddle. I want Waddle. I want him. And Chris Greer's like, okay, but I've said you're not going to get Waddle. I want him.
Hey, somebody said, Twitch, they need to drug test Irsay. No, they don't. They already know.
They know. What do you need to?
Right.
It's quite obvious.
It would be wasting somebody's time going over there and getting his blood.
I want Waddle. I want him. Lolita. Jim, that's not even a player, Jim. I don't know. Steve, can I hang up on this guy?
It's hard to negotiate with unreasonable people.
It is. Well, it's what the Heat are dealing with right now with Cronin.
Right.
But I think that's almost even more.
But here's the difference between the two is this. Here's the difference between the two. At no point in time did Irsay feel like he needed to save face. Right? So there was nothing that happened that would ever make him have to come off of his ridiculous request. No. Right? And he almost handcuffed. He said, yeah, go work out a trade. Here's what we want. Right? Which you knew how it was going to come back because you don't want to pay him. Why would somebody give you assets for somebody you don't want to pay? But as far as Cronin is concerned, Cronin is trying to save face because he has messed this up at every stage of this process. So now he's trying to be able to go back to Portland and say, see what I did? I made it work out. And that's why these two situations are so different.
But like, isn't this like organizational malpractice at this point? Like, you have a guy now.
How can you have organizational malpractice when you own the team?
But that's what I'm saying. Like,
I'll give you an example. How should Dak feel about them bringing in the quarterback from San Fran?
I honestly don't think that's that big a deal. People are making a big deal out of it. It's really
Not
like
to me. I look at it like this. Go ahead.
First of all, he hasn't been that good. Like, if I'm Dak Prescott and I can't beat out a kid who's got 3 snaps in his life, that's on Dak Prescott. You know what I mean? It's kind of like people who are like, "Oh, I can't believe the Dolphins brought in Teddy Bridgewater last year." And it's like, if Tua can't beat out Teddy Bridgewater, then what are we doing? You know,
exactly.
Like, so
it's a whole a bigger problem. But here's the issue, though.
Okay.
That Bridgewater was a veteran. Okay. Who's the quarterback? I keep forgetting.
Trey Lance.
Trey Lance is really young. So if Dak starts struggling, somebody in that organization gonna say, "Let's kick the tires on Trey Lance." You wouldn't say that with Tua. You'd say,
that happened last year with who was the quarterback? Was it Cooper Rush?
Where?
In Dallas, he got like 4 starts and he was like decent in 3 of them. It was like, "Oh, Cooper Rush," but that always happens with Dak Prescott.
Yep.
Like,
right.
You know, honestly, Dak Prescott did it to Tony Romo.
I was gonna say, isn't that how you guys?
It is.
Here's where ignorance is ruining football. And this is what sucks about football, because you can pick and choose what stat you want to use. Wilkins doesn't have the sacks to command big bucks. There you have it. So let me ask you this, to the people that believe that. What if Wilkins went into a game and only played for sacks? Right? Because keep in mind, to me, the difference between a sack and a tackle for loss is the person.
Mm-hmm.
It's still a sack is basically a tackle for loss with a quarterback. He has 16 of those, which is more than anybody else. So is he really being less disruptive than those other guys who have 5 more sacks? No, he's not. And you can pull out of that whatever you want. The Dolphins are going to say he only has 3.5 sacks, right? Which is a low rent move. It really is. If you're negotiating with Christian Wilkins and you're saying he doesn't have the sack numbers, you are low rent when you see all the things that this guy does. That's a fact.
I am curious on those guarantees, though. Like, I'm curious, like, how much of the incentives are based on sacks. Like, if that's a thing that's going in there with the negotiations of the deal.
Hold up, time out real quick.
Yep.
Christian Wilkins.
You just
said, if I hear Leroy say Christian Wilkins one more time, I'm going to drown myself in acid. So there, Christian Wilkins.
He's just going to he's not. He's just going to take that acid to hell. That's all he's going to do. But yeah, the thing with Jonathan Taylor, like, okay, so now this guy who led the league in rushing a couple of years ago now is on the PUP list. I mean, so you're just going to have this guy in your roster, disgruntled, not playing. It's just crazy to me. I can't imagine. You know, you're the one who clearly doesn't value him, doesn't put him on any kind of a pedestal. It's just weird to me that Irsay would put. Okay, Irsay goes and has him look for a team that's willing to pay him and things like that. Fine. That's already probably a challenge in itself in this day and age with the running back market. But you're asking the Dolphins for one of their best players in exchange for him when you don't even think he's going to play for you? That's crazy to me, dude.
Right.
Crazy.
So here's what's crazy. If somebody would have gave them what they wanted, he wouldn't have been on the PUP.
Yeah.
Like, how ridiculous is that? And so when egos come in, here's how egos come into play, and it hurts the team or hurts the franchise. They keep him on PUP just to say, see, right? But who are you hurting? You're hurting your own franchise.
Pretty wild. It's a pretty wild thing. But this Irsay, man. Waddle, give it to me. Blah.
Uh-oh. We're going. They tell me he keeps getting doubled, but where are the 10 sack players benefiting from it? You don't think Jalen Phillips did? Being one-on-one? You don't think Chubb did? Being one-on-one? You don't think Zach Sealer did? Being one-on-one?
Well, and let's also, but here's the other thing that we all clearly saw last year, guys. And then this is the thing that I hate with the Christian Wilkins thing with the fans is like 3 weeks ago, we all wanted him signed. No, there was not a Dolphin fan who didn't want Christian Wilkins on their team long term. And now you get into this stuff where like, oh, but you try and pick the player apart. Is there a Dolphin fan I can go up to and be like, you think this guy's not one of the best players on defense? You don't think that? 1, 2, 3? Like, you don't think he's one of the top 3 players on the defense? If you don't, I don't know what to tell you. And the other thing is, Leroy, the guy had an ass clown as a defensive coordinator. I mean, Josh Boyer stunk. Look at all that talent he had last year. The reason they had to go pay Vic Fangio $1 gazillion to coach is because they had a boob last year. So I just think it's wild to me that like we've gone 3 weeks, nothing has changed. Christian Wilkins is not holding out. He is not making a stink. He says he wants to be a Dolphin for life. And there's Dolphin fans who are taking shots at the guy? For what?
Here's the deal. What happens and how much money is he going to demand if he goes out and just gets sacks? And he doesn't have as many tackles for loss, but he has 10 sacks. And just because he has 10 sacks, his impact could be less because he doesn't have all the other stuff. And you're going to say now he's an elite player?
It's just strange to me. Like, where do you guys get off being pissed off at Christian Wilkins? He's not quitting on the Dolphins. He is not holding out. What did he do? Stop embarrassing Eichenberg for a couple of practices? Who cares? That this guy feels like he's valued and deserves money. Who doesn't? What did he do that was so wrong that you guys are going to sit here and pick apart a player who's very clearly awesome for the Dolphins, is one of the leaders and faces of your franchise, is one of the voices of your team. His best friend got a contract. He was nearly in tears for his friend. Seems like an A+ student and an A+ player. What the hell is wrong with some of you Dolphin fans taking shots at him? Those people need to take a ride with Schmeeth and Schmolik to hell. Wow. In acid. Whoa.
Well, they say $20 million a year is too much for a defensive tackle not named Aaron Donald.
Guess what?
Wait, I got this. Prez, you realize that the Dolphins are backing themselves into $22 million a year, right? Because this is his last year. If they franchise him, they're gonna have to pay him $22 million.
Well, let me ask you this, dude. If that position keeps skyrocketing and every one of these defensive tackles is making $20 million a year annually, I think the league is saying something different as far as the value of it. Because you guys are sitting here with pants tense over the position that everybody is like refusing to pay. It gets paid less than kickers. You're like, oh, get Jonathan Taylor. Meanwhile,
wait a minute, you were leading that charge.
Well, no, but I want both, so it's not the same. And you don't want to think Christian Wilkins isn't worth it. It's like the defensive tackle market's going up higher than South Florida housing.